Well, here we are. Welcome back to the deer farm. This is a new part of the deer farm. So this is what we're going to call pen 5, I guess, because I'm not very creative, and we already have 1 through 4. It's about an acre. Hopefully by now you've seen the last video of kind of drilling posts and how it all got started. As you can see, this is the north line right here, my property line, and this wire is up. Now I still need to put clips on the T-posts, but the brace wires are put in, and the fence wire itself is put up. It went pretty smooth. It was just a single stretch. No big issues. I think I got it tight enough. I never know how tight's too tight. You make it tight where it, you could springboard off of it, and well, that's hard on the corners, and seems like it's tight enough. I kind of go back to the fence I built several years ago and kind of compare with that. There's a couple spots that it did loosen up for one reason or another, but none of it's loose per se. But that's my litmus test. I'll go over to a side that I've been happy with the tension, and kind of feel that, and then come over to the new area and feel that. I don't know. It's what you got to do when you don't build fence very often. So here you can see the corner down here. So that's my next spot I'm going to start working on. I work in the afternoons this week at my real job, and it takes a little extra pushing to get me back out of the house when I get home, at least to do something that's not really fun. But I'm trying to get out, and my goal is I can get at least one corner tied up, and at least that's progress. You do a little bit every day, eventually it's done. So I'm gonna try to get this corner rolled out and tied up and make some progress. That's the plan. What back problems? I don't have any back problems. So much for not getting called into work. This goes slow enough with one person as it is. Oh, gotta go. greenest hay in the world, but lots of leaves in it. And a half turns. All right, raking time. Well, fifth cutting, here we are. This is just my little grass patch that I use to, I don't know, I like to have a grass bale in the baler last. Of course, we'll probably clean it out. Probably clean it out this time because we'll be done for the year. But I might as well use the grass I've got. I use a few of the prairie hay bales every year. Not a lot, but like I said, I've got the grass here. Mowing it for hay kind of keeps the weeds out a little bit, so that's what I've been doing. So cutting number 5, it's Friday. Bales have been, or the hay's been drying since Monday. We got a little bit of rain on it, less than a quarter inch the day after I cut it. So hopefully not the end of the world. It's pretty thin cutting, just number 5, and I could have let it grow longer, but I wanted that good interval between the last cutting and winter time, so I think the crop takes a hurt, takes a beating if you cut it real close and doesn't regrow some for winter. Tell you what, I'm going to go to the other end. I'm going to try something different this time. I want to bale this south, or rake the south end toward the south. What I figured out happens is, because of the odd shape of the field, when I rake it, going north and south, it was missing areas. It wasn't really picking it up real well. But when I looked closer, I realized the tines, with that angle, the tines of the rake were lining up almost exactly with the way the hay was laying when it got cut. So it was going between the stems and between the leaves and leaving some. So I'm going to figure out a different way to cut it in the future, but for now I want to try to rake this in kind of away, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. Like I could drop the rake just a little bit. Still leaving a little bit. Probably part of that's because it got rained on. Like I said, if we get 20 bales out of this, I feel like we'll be lucky. I'm breaking it right at dark. My thought process here is that the top layer is very dry. And so I thought, well, if the bottom is still, there's a few wet spots that are a little too wet still to bale. So if I rake it right now, I'm not going to wet that dry layer overnight. I did that last time. I raked it the next day. Well, I raked up all the dew moisture. So I'm going to try it this way. And the amount of surface area in a windrow, of course, is reduced. Versus it laying all out flat. So I'm going to look at this, make sure we're not too wet here. I mean, too wet. It ain't too wet, too dry. That looks good. I don't think we'll lose too much leaf. Probably have to rake a few windrows together. It's pretty thin. Not terrible, I guess. Okay. I think I'm going to push this alfalfa over just a bit, give myself a little more room to turn around, and then we'll start doing north and south rows. Still leaving quite a bit, and I don't know. I think it's just because it's thin. I don't dare lower those rake tines any farther. Alright, now let's make some rounds around the field. These outside rounds are not much here, but we'll rake it up anyway. Sitting about 70% humidity, 65 or 70. And it seems like that's about the right time. Before there's real high moisture or risk of dew, I think I'll have this raked up before there's any dew, but it's wet enough that the leaves aren't just all shattering when I squeeze it in my hand. Quite a bit of grass mixed in with this because I cut around the outside, but that's fine. I'm not selling it. It'll be just fine. Got a couple of tines on my rake that are bent, so you can hear them clanging around back there. That's what a field with a bunch of rocks does to it.